What is up? Gear Squad, Changer here, bringing you another video. I'm back. It's a different format. Why? Because we're back with, hold on. Let me think about all the millions of titles that I've used in the past. It's kind of like GearCast. I just really wanted to talk about this. Me and Phoenix. You don't know Phoenix. This is Archaic Phoenix, Ballistic Phoenix, Delta Phoenix. You know, I make the joke pretty often that the Phoenix always rises in some way, shape, or form. Right now, it's Delta Phoenix in our Discord, which you can join down in the description. But yeah, we were just playing Call of Duty, Modern Warfare 2, Warzone, DMZ. It's a lot of different titles. And if you don't know what that is, let me break it down for you. Call of Duty, everybody probably knows what COD is. First-person shooter. Modern Warfare 2, so it's the newest one, as far as I'm aware. It's the newest Call of Duty that came out last year? 2022?
Yeah.
Maybe? I think it came out last year. But we're playing Warzone, which is the free...
multiplayer suite.
Yeah, which I guess is Warzone 2, but I don't think you can actually play OG Warzone anymore. But I could be wrong. I have no idea. But it's Warzone 2, technically. And then within Warzone, we're playing a game mode called DMZ. And I was just sitting there and I was like, dude, you want to make a video about this? And he was like, yeah, sure. So you probably haven't seen him on camera in a long time. Frankly, you probably haven't seen me on camera in a while. I do a bunch of streaming, twitch.tv/ChaingearGaming. But I just wanted to talk about DMZ. I wanted to talk about extraction shooters, why we've been liking DMZ, the fact that I am basically at this point a Call of Duty main. I used to be a Destiny main. I still play Destiny all the time, but all the time is a little bit different than what I meant prior. Prior, it would be literally every single day. Now I pretty much play DMZ every single day.
Yeah.
And I play with Phoenix. I play with, shout out to the rest of Obsidian Gears with Mexican Synth. Sometimes Gil Trosty, Care Bear. Yeah, you know, we get some dubs recently. So yeah, hanging out with a couple of different people on DMZ. But I kind of just wanted to talk about it, to talk about the state of shooters, talk about the future of extraction shooters, to talk about Call of Duty, and also give you a little bit of history. Because some of you guys might not know Phoenix. We're like best friends. We've been best friends since middle school. Middle school. And we've been playing games around the same amount of time. And because we've known each other for such a long time, we like a lot of the same things just by, exposure to them, right? So a lot of our first shooters are similar. And when we played shooters back in middle school, high school, college, a lot of them were the same shooters. So for those that are around from the Blacklight days, some of y'all might remember him because he played with Cat Stash for a long time. Obviously, folks that are in the Obsidian Gears right now, you guys probably... most of you would probably know him. So we've played a lot of the same shooters throughout time. But we used to be like more of like a OBJ, objective. And we still are. We play a lot of objective-based shooters. So like in Blacklight, we liked the more objective-based game modes. The first shooter that we ever played, really played together, was MAG.
Oh, yeah.
We played a lot of MAG, and we liked it because it was
objective based,
massive. Like we never played the first. There was like one game mode that's just like TDM, basically, really small. MAG stands for Massive Action Game, so like you could have 256 players. But there was one game mode that was just TDM
players or something like that.
Something like that. We didn't really play that. We always played the objective game mode where two teams are trying to take, I guess, A, and then whoever takes A pushes up to B, and then the other team starts defending B. And then C, which is all the way on the other side. And so
I feel like they did something special because if you look at Battlefield now, or a lot of the games that are doing that type of objective play, it's always you're on defending or attacking, and you just follow through. Where it's like in the beginning of MAG, when you're playing, it's whoever gets there first.
Everyone's trying to get to A.
Yeah, it sets the trend, and then like, if you get a good push, you're attacking, and if that push wasn't too great, you're defending. But like, there's something a little different about having either start in attacking and defending, and having that like experience defined for you, or having the ability to like go to this confrontation and then earn the right to push comparatively to it being assigned to you.
And it's harder every time too, right?
Yeah.
Like the fight to A is 50-50 shot, right? Like whoever gets it, gets it. The fight to B, now it's harder for the attacking team. Yeah. So like the attacking team is trying to get to B while the defending team is just like spawning constantly there.
Yeah.
Well, they're spawning at what their C would be, but that's closer to B than A was. So like it's harder to actually go ahead and get to. So anyway, we played a lot of objective-based games. Then we played Blacklight, and we played games in between, like Battlefield 3. Played a lot of Battlefield 3.
A little bit of Rainbow Six.
Which one?
Not Siege. It was the...
Talking about Vegas?
Yeah.
I didn't play that much Vegas. I was in high school, but that doesn't surprise me that you might have played Vegas.
And then Killzone and some other stuff.
Oh, we played a lot of Killzone. I forgot about that. We played a lot of Killzone. Killzone 3, Killzone Shadowfall. We played a lot of that. Mostly objective-based game modes. I mean, a lot of people don't know that Killzone's multiplayer was really a class-based shooter.
Oh, yeah.
Like, you literally had...
You picked the class for on top of sniping. I'm not good at that.
You wanted to be. That's all right.
It was a goal.
They had engineers, they throw down turrets. They had healers, they'd go out with a little bot that would heal you and stuff. Yeah, those were fun games. And then we played a ton of Battlefield with my roommates. That was super, super fun in college. Last of Us.
Yeah.
Last of Us Factions multiplayer. That was actually not. That probably was the first game we played.
There wasn't really objective.
We weren't worried about objective
going on.
Yeah.
Kind of objective.
We ignored that at some point. Yeah. It was really just kill the other team.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, that's funny. That's probably the most competitive game we had played at that time.
Aggressive, too.
Yeah. And it's classic survival where, you have a pool of lives, they have a pool of lives, and you're trying to kill as many, get rid of as many lives on their team and keep as many on your team as possible. Yeah. So that was probably the first like kill objective based game we played comparatively to, all the other ones where it was like, we don't know if we're that good at shooters or not. We just like going to the objective. We like first person shooter mechanics and we like winning. We didn't really think about KD or anything like that. No, we did play Call of Duty, and he played more Call of Duty than I did generally, but we both played Call of Duty Black Ops 3.
Yeah.
3.
Yeah, the multiplayer.
But we played the entire campaign. Yeah, which I know is a very unpopular campaign. We really liked it.
Yeah.
I think we really liked it because we played it was co-op and we were just happy to play. It was on the back of Blacklight. Basically, after my clan got really serious about tournaments and stuff, Phoenix was kind of like, I don't really want to like do all the tournament stuff. And I was like, that's fair. Yeah. So then we picked up a different game, and that was Call of Duty. Yeah. So we beat the campaign. We really liked it, and we were like, why not? I guess we could try the multiplayer. And the multiplayer Call of Duty has really strong aim assist comparatively to Blacklight. Yeah. So we were jumping into Call of Duty. And we were like, wow, this is really easy. And we like movement shooters. So like we're like jumping around,
wall running, and and it's great. Yeah.
So I like Black Ops 3, and then we didn't pick up.
And then,
we played Titanfall 2. We played a ton of Titanfall 2. Yeah. But we didn't really play a ton of Call of Duty after that, really at all. Like maybe if it was free, I never bought another Call of Duty. I think I tried Battlefield a couple of times, but it just didn't feel the same as 3. So never really got into another shooter outside of Destiny, which Destiny's a very different shooter, right? Destiny is an arena-based shooter at its core when it comes to Crucible. So, we played a ton of Destiny 1, ton of Destiny 2, but we never really got into PvP until way, way, way later.
Yeah.
But it wasn't until last year. Never played Warzone. We played Battle Royales. We played a lot of Apex. I played a lot of Apex. Yeah. You played some Apex.
Yeah, I played some. We even went back to H1Z1 for a little bit.
Oh, yeah. We tried a bunch. H1Z1. I know me and Mirish tried. Man, I can't think of what it's called. Mirish, I know you probably know. The one where you can turn into a werewolf. That game, can't remember what that's called. Realm Royale, which is High-Res's Battle Royale, which I still actually really like. But yeah, we played a bunch. Battle Royales are just not for me. A whole bunch of people getting on one island, last person to survive. My natural reaction to that is stay low, gear up, and then, kind of make it as far as you can and then get into a fight. And that doesn't really help with the idea, like, because the top players are always the ones who are dropping hot and killing everybody. So like at the end of the day, it was kind of like, this isn't really working for me generally. So yeah, I'm not a huge fan of Battle Royale. Then extraction shooters came out. And the first extraction shooter I think I had ever played was the Cycle.
I did not play it. You were telling me about it.
Yeah, so the Cycle, and it was just called the Cycle at the time. And I played with Mexican Synth, and I'm pretty sure I played with Mirish. So shout out again to Obsidian Gears. I'm pretty sure. I know I played it with Mexican Synth. And it was like an alpha. And we played it. We thought it was pretty fun. And the Cycle is now called the Cycle Frontiers, and I actually think they just ended service for it. So it didn't reach a big enough appeal for enough people to play it for it to really keep going. But we enjoyed it. It was like the first one we played. And remind me, did you play the Cycles of Frontier or not?
No, I didn't play any of this.
So I know for Frontier I played with Gil Trosty. I keep saying different versions of his name. The homie Gil. I know I played with Gil. I know I played with Mex. I know I played with Mirish. Maybe I played with Darth as well, but great game. I really did enjoy it. And it gave you that feeling of, okay, you're in this world. And let me paint a picture for those who don't know what extraction shooters are. Extraction shooters, a lot of people think is like the future. Like it's the next big theme in gaming. Battle Royales came out, everybody made a Battle Royale. A lot of people think that's the same for extraction shooters. So extraction shooters is, instead of a helicopter coming in and everybody dropping out and the last one standing being the one to win, the idea is that everyone's already on the island or everybody's already on wherever, and they're all trying to get out. So everyone can technically win, but everybody has different objectives. So in DMZ, for example, which is the game we're going to talk about the most, but most of these games are all the same. You enter, the map opens up, and it's like, oh, welcome to the DMZ, or welcome to Al Mazrah, or if you're playing some other game like the Cycle, it'll be like, oh, welcome to the Frontier, or whatever it is, and you're just walking up to like the starting phase, because technically you're already on the island, right? Sometimes they have something where you're dropping in, and then you're also trying to evac. We played one. Did you ever play Scavengers with us?
I picked up Scavengers after you guys stopped playing. I played with a coworker of mine and then kind of just fell out of it.
So Scavengers is another shooter, extraction-based shooter that no longer exists either. They also had an end of life recently, so they don't actually have any more. I don't know if you can play it at all anymore. I don't think you can. But Scavengers, I also played with Mex, Mirish. You'll get a lot of the same people because they'll actually play random games with me that no one's ever heard of. But yeah, Scavengers was very similar. But Scavengers, they would like, oh, you're landing on the map, you do some objectives, and you leave. So the idea around extraction shooters is, can you give players a good enough reason to want to come in to this area and then extract and then play again? Because it probably sounds a little weird, right? Your goal isn't to get onto the island and kill everybody, which is like a normal shooter, right? It's just to be the winner. Your idea is to get on, do something, and feel accomplished enough for you to want to leave. For some people, that is coming in and killing a certain number of enemies. Enemies might be PvE, as in, like AI. It might be PvP, as in other players. So, if you're playing DMZ, you might drop in. I say drop in. You might start and be like, all right, we're just going to play and we're just going to kill everybody we find.
Yeah,
we're going to go in with a squad of 3 and we're just going to wipe out every single team on the map. You could try and do that. And some people do. Some people will go find hunt contracts, which is literally go hunt squads.
Which is a relatively new addition, right? That came into
DMZ. Yeah. Not new to Warzone, but definitely new to DMZ. And then other players will come in and be like, I think I want to do an intel contract, and so they'll go and they'll find a contract to go use an intel tower and figure out where a boss is and then leave, and that's it, and that's their whole game, and that's success for them. So that's an extraction shooter. The idea is to get in and get out alive, and complete whatever tasks in between that you want. So we've played a couple of extraction shooters. Again, the Cycle, Scavengers. I don't think I played any others before that. But there are more extraction shooters coming out. And there are some that you probably know of and you might not even know. Tarkov. Tarkov is the #1 extraction shooter. Now, DMZ might have eclipsed it by now. I don't know. But in terms of what people know, Tarkov is usually the name.
That's the foundation for it, yeah.
Yeah, and Tarkov is really hardcore. Like, Tarkov's like, I mean, it is a gritty, a very unrelenting game where, you know,
you've got to want to play that game.
Yeah. It's just like,
you casually pick it up and you're like, okay, I'm just gonna, you'll like it or you'll be like, no.
Yeah, it's unforgiving. I mean, take a look. If you haven't seen any of Escape from Tarkov, it is a very gritty game that is unforgiving. And I don't think there's any like teaming up capabilities. I don't think there are objectives for you to do, but it's really just for you to like kit up yourself. And it's a lot of where the terminology for the extraction shooter genre, a lot of the terminology comes from Tarkov. For example, some people will say, "Oh, let's raid." From Destiny perspective, raid means getting a 6-man team and doing a PvE activity. For a Tarkov player, that means going into what we would say is the DMZ, because we play DMZ. So that just means playing a game, basically, of Tarkov. So Tarkov is one that a lot of people know. Upcoming extraction shooters would include the likes of Marathon. So Marathon is Bungie's next big project that has just been recently announced. I don't believe there's any gameplay of it. Disclaimer, I used to work for Bungie. I have played a Marathon, and it's like very beta form. So I'm not even going to talk about it because it might completely change. Also, I don't want to get sued. So like, there's just no reason for me to talk about it at all. But we do know it's an extraction shooter that has been made public. And you can watch, the trailer to kind of get a sense of what it might be like. But yeah, we play DMZ. So hopefully that's enough of a background for extraction shooters. Love to hear in the comment sections if you guys have played any extraction shooters, or if it's even interesting to you, especially for folks who have played either who have tried battle royales and maybe don't like them so much, or maybe do, or folks that definitely play battle royales. Like, is our extraction shooters something that sound interesting to you? So question for you is, what makes you, before we get into DMZ specifically, what makes you like extraction shooters, like, at all?
So funny enough, because you mentioned battle royales, for me it feels like the opposite end of battle royales, right? There are some similarities, and I think what's engaging about it is, number one, it's PvEVP.
Yeah.
And that is that's my sweet spot, right? Like, I do like playing PvP in some games. We played Trials for a little bit when I was trying to get good.
Oh, yeah. Destiny.
Yeah. And like, there's something like fun and engaging about playing other players and like testing your skill level. But I also don't like to sweat too often. You know what I mean? And so being able to go into like an environment and be able to play objectively, if I run into another squad, having the option, do I want to engage? Do I want to step away? Like, I feel like it's the perfect playground for me to jump in and just like enjoy a first-person shooter, do some cool stuff. And then there's something about like, there is a fulfillment in completing an objective, getting a whole bunch of cool loot, maybe besting a team or two, and then getting out of there.
Yeah.
It feels like a good simulation of like I don't know, like war or something, you know what I mean? Like, the objective for like a lot of shooters is go in and kill everybody, right? And like, realistically, that's probably not
right. That's not. Yeah.
And like, so there's that military power fantasy of jumping in, completing objective, and getting out of there. It's almost akin to like to Ghost Recon Wildlands, where it was like, okay, like, here you are, like, you're a ghost, you're going in here, you're on your own, there's no backup, you'll have some communication with HQ, and you get in there and do some stuff, all these cool objectives, but the goal is like survival and getting away.
Yeah.
Something about that is just very, very intriguing comparatively to just jumping in a team deathmatch or search and destroy. So those things are fun, but this scratches a different type of itch.
Yeah, there's a couple things you pointed out, like PvEVP is really hard.
Yeah.
PvEVP, when I say it's really hard, I don't mean it's hard for the player. It can be. It certainly can be.
Yeah.
But I mean, the design-wise of PvEVP, a great example is the last PvEVP game that I think anyone in my clan or anyone who plays Destiny 2 has played is Gambit.
Yeah.
And Gambit is very divisive, like very divisive. Some people hate it. Some people love it. Because Gambit isn't an option of PvEVP. it is PvEVP, meaning you will play against players.
Yeah.
You will play against normal enemies, but you will also 100% play against players. They will invade you, and they will kill you, right? Yeah. Whereas in a Tarkov, a DMZ, these extraction shooters, they give you the option.
And sometimes you will not run into anyone at all.
Oh, 100%.
Just out of coincidence. Like,
yeah.
Like, didn't happen.
Yeah. We just played a game right before we jumped on here. And we saw multiple teams, and we were like, "Yeah, we're not doing that right now. We have some other, objective. There are missions in DMZ. We want to go do these missions." So we spent half the time doing that. And other people can decide what they're going to do too, right? Which is kind of that classic emergent gameplay. Like, you don't know what's going to happen. So there's this team, and we saw them, and they were extracting, and we were like, "Should we engage?" We're like, no, let them leave, and then we'll use the same chopper spot to leave as well. We're up there. There's a guy right behind us who's like,
no clue.
He's like, "Hello," and we're like, "What the heck?"
He's like, "How's it going?"
Yeah. And we were like, "Wait, what the heck?" Like, he could have just killed us, but he was chill, and he was like, "Yeah, what's up?" I was like, "Do you want to join us?" He's like, "Sure." Like, you never know that. Like, that's the kind of stuff that can't happen in any other game. Certainly not going to happen in Gambit. Yeah. And so like PvEVP is very, very hard to do. Technically, I guess you could say, which I never thought of until just now, MOBAs are PvEVP. But again, it's you will be playing against players. It is mostly PvP with a little bit of E. There's like, it's mostly PvP with some E thrown in there. And I think for Gambit, it's PvE with a little bit of P thrown in there. Yeah. But the P part, the player part, will be thrown in there.
Yeah.
So I think that's really, really complicated. And I think DMZ does a really good job, or extraction shooters in general do a really good job. Now, I will say that there are some extraction shooters where there's only one evac. So Scavengers, I believe, had one evac. And so you could do all this stuff. And the difference was that you could drop off your, like, basically you could do all this stuff and you would get money, and you could drop off your money. So even if you died, you still made your money.
Yeah.
But there was one exfil.
So if you wanted to take the gear you got too, you're fighting whoever else is there.
Yeah, so it's like DMZ and a battle royale. Yeah. So like, you're dropping in for extraction, but the extraction is still battle royale again. So that was a little too intense, I think, for me at least. Or I don't even think you have to do that in Tarkov. I think in Tarkov you can just leave. I think there's multiple exits, so you can just leave. I think somebody could correct me if I'm wrong. And I know that's the case for the cycle. The cycle, there were multiple exfil locations. Everyone would still know if you're exfilling. All of a sudden, a giant beam would come down and be like, "Oh, someone's exfilling," and you can decide what you're going to do with that. You could even camp it. You could decide to call it down and then kill people who are trying to kill you. Right? There's a bunch of different ways around that. And I do think that's the better way to do it. But PvEVP is definitely very, very difficult. Yeah, man, that is challenging. I also think it's challenging. This is to go a little bit deeper into DMZ specifically. It's challenging to make that loop interesting.
Yeah.
So, like, I think, one of the things that Phoenix mentioned is like the fantasy of DMZ is particularly with Call of Duty. Somehow the military fantasy of it, which, take that with like a grain of salt. When we say like the military fantasy, we're not talking about like, something really intense here. Yeah, we're talking about like the idea, the fantasy that Call of Duty creates generally, right? Yeah. I play, some of the characters I play as obviously would never be on a battlefield, and some of them are completely fantastical. The two newest skins that just came out is like basically a Scorpion lookalike, Scorpion from Mortal Kombat, which is a guy with a skull who's just on fire.
Magma flow or something.
Yeah,
like that.
Yeah. Another guy basically looks like the Terminator if he was like a head, like a skull head.
The spectral ghost.
Yeah. I guess he kind of looks like Ghost Rider. He looks like Ghost Rider with like
diamond skull.
Yeah. Like, obviously, a lot of that is fantastical. I actually like the more fantastical side of it. I kind of like it when they go completely out of whack and they're just like, alternate reality, like, randomly appears here. I think that's pretty cool.
You can fight as a giant rat.
You can fight as a giant cat.
Yeah.
There are two different ones. But obviously it's based in classic Call of Duty. But the idea around it, the theming around it, is what keeps me coming back for DMZ specifically. So the way the cycle worked is that it had, you had a base. Now DMZ is if you play Call of Duty, it's just a game mode. So it's the same. Like you go to Call of Duty. Call of Duty's menu system is has little to be desired.
Yeah.
And when you go into Call of Duty, it's like, what do you want to play? Do you want to play Warzone? Do you want to play DMZ? Do you want to play multiplayer? Do you want to play co-op? Like, you want to play raids? Like, there's all these things, and you're like, it's just menus. And then when you go into that menu, it's more menus. There's no base. There's no there's nothing that brings it all together. Which we'll get to what we'd like to see in DMZ or DMZ2 or DMZ is technically in beta, but and it is in beta. I do quotes, but it is in beta. It has been changing drastically over time.
Yeah.
But the cycle had like a big base, and you'd go back to the base, and there would be factions, and you could talk to those factions, and they'd have shops, and the higher level you got with the factions, the better the shops would be, and the cheaper the shops would be, and they had. Like you could go in and you could kit yourself out, or you could buy different things. Like basically, they had this entire world built around you going out. You're going out and you're coming back for a reason, and the world is changing around you while you're doing that. Scavengers, I think, might have had something like that, but I don't think it was as tangible. I think it was mostly in menus, but I still think the same thing applied. DMZ doesn't have anything like that. DMZ has 4 factions at this point that we're aware of: Black Mouse, White Lotus, Phalanx, and Crown. 4 different factions, and we don't have a ton of information. There's not like you don't like meet with these groups. There's not an NPC that resembles those groups or whatever. They're just these random factions.
And that contact you,
or contact your contact, and that's basically it. There's not really a story. There's a story happening technically in Modern Warfare 2 that every season is evolving, and DMZ is influenced by that. But I would say probably 9 out of 10 people that are playing this game have no idea what's going on, if there is anything actually going on. So there is a weird part of that, but the actual fantasy of still kitting all of your characters and having this like kitted squad that you can come in with is still somehow good enough for us to keep playing.
Yeah,
which is pretty cool. So hopefully that made sense with the structure of the different groups. Each group has like missions and such. So there's that too, and like we go in and we do those missions. There's also the battle pass, which makes things a little bit complicated. But here's another question for you, because I think this is kind of getting to the crux of things here, is that DMZ is not the most inviting game mode.
Yeah.
Extraction games are not the most inviting. They're not always easy to be inviting because, one, a lot of people drop in and have no idea what they're doing. It's obvious for a battle royale what you're doing: kill the enemy.
Yeah.
But in DMZ or in some other extraction shooter, which at this point you'll probably just hear me talking about DMZ. For DMZ, if you drop in, a lot of people that we've played with in the past, they're like, well, what are we doing? Like, what are we doing, and why are we doing it?
Yeah.
That's pretty complicated. Do you remember when you first started playing DMZ? Like, do you remember what that feeling was like? Because I'm assuming I probably told you to play.
Yeah. So like you had already played a little bit with Mexican Synth and probably a little bit of Gil.
Maybe, yeah.
Because it was around the time where like they were playing Warzone pretty aggressively.
Mm-hmm.
And you played a bit, and you're like, "Hey, Dave, like I think you'll really like DMZ."
Yeah.
And I was like, "Okay, let's give it a try." And like, luckily, you had already played a bit, so you kind of like you curated the experience for me. You know what I mean? Like you were like, "All right," like you explained it. You jump in. There's objectives on the map. There's missions, like objectives that you'll have assigned for your character that you can kind of pick through, like a pretty decent selection based on the factions. And you're like, we'll just jump in. There's going to be a ton of enemy AI that we'll deal with, different tiers of enemies. And then there's a chance to run into some real players. So like, luckily I had you to kind of explain what the process was.
Yeah.
It is not easy to get. It's not inviting.
Yeah.
A friend of mine recently like played for the first time, and she jumped in, and I was like, okay, like this, welcome to the DMZ. Like this is the giant like map space you'll play on. There's other real players you have a chance to run into. There's missions and objectives. And she spent probably 20, 25 minutes in the same cell on the map, just killing AI, like not really understanding, and like like to guide that. And again, we were playing on the same console, so I was giving her the controller. So it's rough jumping into. If you don't have someone to show you the ropes, it's not very inviting.
Yeah.
And that's like, that can be to the game's detriment, because if you go in there, you don't know what you're doing, you just get killed, or you don't know to extract and you lose. Like, you may be like, why would I play this?
Yeah, DMZ's biggest, any extraction shooter's biggest value is emergent gameplay. It's the fact that you go in, it's a sandbox, and you have no idea what's going to happen. You can curate the experience in any way that you want, which in this scenario, I know Phoenix super, super well. So I can say, hey, I know what you're going to like. I know how to kind of guide you into the right direction to be like, oh, that's what this game is about.
Yeah.
Right. And then, he'll start to formulate his own thing. And be like, oh, actually, I want to do this, or oh, I want to do this. And so sometimes I'll be like, I don't care what we do. Like, let's just go in and do it. And he's like, all right, cool. And other times I'm like, okay, I really want to get this mission line done, or whatever it might be. So it is definitely an experience that can be challenging, because it's one of those games that if you play a shooter, the objective is almost always very easily understood, right?
Yeah.
It's like, okay, go capture this point. That's the point of this game mode. Collect the tags, kill the enemy, like whatever it is. But when you drop in DMZ, you decide what the outcome is.
Yeah.
Which I can't think of any game that is like that. Even survival games aren't like that. Survival games are like, if you go into DMZ and you think the goal is to extract, you wouldn't do anything. You would open the map, find the exfil, and then you'd go to the exfil and nothing would happen. And you'd be like, what's the point of this game?
Yeah.
Whereas for a survival game, if you survive, you could just survive forever. And you'll do things that will make it easier for you to survive, because that's the goal. So like if the game mode is like survive, and you're playing Minecraft and you're like, okay. And so you build a little house, and then some enemies come after you. You might be like, oh, okay, this is interesting. And then you might build the house a little bit bigger, so that way you have some more room. And then you're like,
defenses, maybe a moat or something.
Yeah, all of a sudden you're like, oh, wait a second, I could defend this a little bit easier. Maybe, more enemies come up. All of a sudden a creeper comes up and blows up your house, and you're like, what the heck? And you have to problem solve. It naturally guides you to that. Whereas for DMZ, there is no natural progression for you to want to do other things. You have to go in with the mindset of setting your own challenge and setting your own goals, which personally I really like. Like that's like one of my favorite things about DMZ. So I'll give you there's two more things I definitely want to talk about before I get into that. Tips for those folks that are starting DMZ or want to try DMZ. Go into DMZ and look at all that it has to offer. You're going to go to the front page of DMZ, and the first thing I want you to do is go to mission objectives. And when you go to mission objectives, which is the bottom, I guess it's kind of the bottom,
right next to the deploy option.
Yeah.
It looks like a stack of folders on top of each other. Click
on that and just read through everything that's in there, because it will tell you what missions are available, like what is available for you to do.
Ooh.
And it will also,
And so actually, I do not believe missions are available until you reach level 4.
Interesting.
Yeah, which
all missions or just the faction missions?
I think faction missions are not available until you reach level 4 as well.
So nothing in that.
Yeah, I think you have to run. I think you have to go in and then reach level 4 before they start to unlock.
But what about the base missions, like the ping things? Those have got to be available.
Okay, so you know what? Maybe, that's probably a little more accurate. I think they start you off with some very easy missions, but but there was something about when my friend was playing, there was not a lot of options in the beginning.
I remember that. I know. I remember there not being options. So maybe try this instead. Go in and play by the missions rules. Go in, take a look at the missions, and try and understand what all that means. For example, it'll be like ping a contract phone. Learn how to use the map, be able to zoom in, zoom out, look at things, select things, stuff like that. Figure out that there are AI on the map and that you could kill AI forever if you wanted to. Figure out that there are other players on the map.
You could kill AI for 45 minutes.
Yeah, you literally could. You literally could. And there's some good reason to do that if you're trying to level up your guns, by the way. Yeah. So, play by the mission's rules and understand that system. And I think you'll have a pretty good time in DMZ. My second tip would be try and find somebody that really loves DMZ. For example, if I understand how someone likes playing a game, I can be like, okay, let me show you how DMZ is going to be fun for you. Especially if you can find somebody that cares about your enjoyment of the game. If they just like DMZ and want you to play with them, that might be a little bit different because they might just want you to play the way that they play. But if you have a friend or clanmate or family member, whatever, who plays DMZ and they are interested in your experience with it, give it a shot, try it out. It's not always going to be the best. Like, it's not always going to be super fun. Just like if you're to play a battle royale, you might land and all of a sudden someone kills you. It happens. But there are some games where you don't see anyone. That will not happen in a battle royale. In a battle royale, you will either die or you will kill everyone. That is the only option. And 9 times out of 10, you're dying. That's kind of the point, right? If you're getting doubles back to back, that means you're either in the wrong elo or you're one of the top tier, groups, right? Yeah. So, any quick tips, tricks, thoughts about DMZ for beginners?
Yeah. So there's not really a tutorial, unfortunately, which that's something that we'll talk about later about things that we would like to see in the game. I would say, in the beginning, take a look at the mission objective, see what's available, and kind of go into the first mission maybe expecting to lose, expecting to die. And I'm not saying to set your expectations low, but doing so will allow you to fully experience what the game will have to offer.
Doubling down on that.
Yeah.
Do the mission. Yeah. Don't think about extracting.
Yes.
Because you can complete missions and not extract.
That's the nice thing. Like mission objectives, some of them you do have to successfully leave, but a lot of them, especially in the beginning, are checkbox. Complete this. Doesn't matter if you extract or not.
Super simple. Literally like ping enemies.
UAV tower.
Yeah. Ping a UAV tower, go to the UAV tower, use the UAV tower, done.
Yeah.
And then technically if you die, you still completed it and you still get something for it. Yeah. Sometimes it's double XP, sometimes it's a contraband weapon. Which I won't go into the weapon system, but there are a lot of things that you might get frustrated about, and those will be the rewards later down the line. So anyway, I focus on the missions without the intent of necessarily extracting. And if you do extract, great.
Yeah. I think that's going to be that will set you up to be able to enjoy the game a little bit more, because unfortunately the tutorial, I don't want to say unfortunately, but the tutorial is integrated into completing the beginner missions. I think it's a better way to make that a little more. Yeah. So, go into your first game, focusing on the missions, not trying to not focusing on exfil. Again, if you can, awesome. Right. If you don't, it's not a loss, especially if it's the beginning of the game. I would also say probably avoid other players if you can. There's proximity chat. So when you get close to another team, you'll know. They'll show up on the right side.
Maybe.
Maybe. If you see a red name popping up, you're close enough to someone where there could be an engagement. Do your best to get away from there.
Yeah.
And you won't really know until you stop hearing people talk.
I will say that's one of the, if you've ever played a game like Call of Duty or something that has proximity chat, it adds a layer to games that just don't have it. Yeah. It's very fun to be driving and all of a sudden you drive past a building and you hear people talking in the building, and so then you turn around and then they go, "Oh, someone's outside," and you're like, "Yeah, there's someone outside," or
"Oh yeah, there's someone outside."
Yeah. There's a lot of really cool moments that you get that you just won't get in any other game. Sometimes they're friendly, which I know might sound surprising. Also don't be an asshole.
Yeah.
You can be not nice in this game if that's your MO, but you don't have to be Yeah, you don't have to be rude about it.
You don't have to be toxic. You know?
Yeah.
We've run into people who are like, yeah, our goal is to like kill you and everyone else we can.
Yeah.
And that's okay. We had one team that like pushed us. We got killed. And we're like, hey, like, what are you guys out here doing? Just killing everyone? And he's like, taking out the trash. And I'm like, hey, bro, like, can you run this? He's like, yeah, we can run you.
Yeah.
Like, you can be mean in the game. Don't be toxic.
Yeah. It's literally a more fun game when you're not. Yeah. I know I say that for a lot of people. Everybody in my clan knows this. I don't like toxic behavior at all. But if you are toxic in a game where those people disappear the next game and it doesn't matter, right? Then you don't think about it. But in DMZ, you being humble about your experience can completely change it. A great example is, let's say someone kills you with a rocket and you're like, oh, that's so cheap, and you just start bashing on this person. That person doesn't care. They'll leave. Your game's over. If instead you're like, you come with a rocket, that's crazy. Yo, can you pick me up? They might pick you up, and then your game continues.
Yeah.
Right. And so like that.
And then we're like, good scrub.
Yeah. And it's okay. Like the games are so different that it's totally worth it. Like there are some games I gotta walk away from. This has happened to me multiple times. Like sometimes you just get killed by a helicopter, and you can't get up because every time you get up, you get killed by the propeller.
And we're not talking about like, oh yeah, the helicopter came down and shot you. Like you got clipped by the blades.
Yes. Anyway, and like so, sometimes you just gotta you get up. I'll come back later. But then the next game is completely different. Yeah, like a squad of like one person is like, oh guys, please don't kill me, and you're like, oh yeah, no worries, join up. And then all of a sudden you're a 3 squad, and then you kill one person. They're like, oh, we're friendly, and then all of a sudden you're a 5 squad, and then you run around the entire map killing everyone because you're a 5 squad. Like that could be the next game. So you never know what's gonna happen.
So, all that to say, go into your first game looking to experience the missions, and keeping an open mind of what your DMZ experience is going to be. Because every game will be different.
Yeah.
Every game will, it'll fall into a category of like, are you completing missions? Are you doing like meta game, which will be like the passive missions? Are you going into do more, like lean more into PvP? But every experience will be a little different, and keeping an open mind to that will allow you to like way better enjoy the
game. Yeah, I agree. So, yeah. It's time for us to talk about what we want to see in DMZ, because we have a lot of thoughts about. I love DMZ, but it's in beta.
Yeah,
it's in beta, and extraction shooters are very new. So I'm like, I try pretty much any extraction shooter that comes out because I'm just interested in seeing how they do things differently. I play a wide variety of games. And so because of that, I think I have a lot of thoughts around the game design. I think DMZ as a mode is really good. I think everyone should try it at least a handful of times and understand it, and then decide if they like it or not. Not because they have to play it or anything like that, but just because I think it's good and I think they should understand what the game mode is like. But what would we want to see in DMZ? I'm going to start with you, because I have this like large over encompassing kind of thing that I'd like to see for DMZ, which might be hard for me to like articulate. So I'm gonna let you start. No more than like 3, but like 3 main things. You can just say 1 for now, and we can jump back and forth.
Yeah.
But like, what is one thing that you'd like to see in DMZ? In the future, in the next, let's say the next couple seasons, they're like, hey, we're working on this big thing, or small, that, hey, we made the small change. What would be one of those things?
So the one I'm going to lean on is for new players, because for me, like getting more people into DMZ and wanting to play it means we're going to see way more further down the line.
Yeah.
So I think reducing the cost of entry, and making that experience a little more better, is going to be like,
to be super clear, DMZ is free to play.
Yeah, when I say cost of entry, I mean like skill level and like what the opportunity cost entry.
Yes. Yeah. Also, I want to be super clear. I'm a paid player in the sense that I own Modern Warfare 2, and I buy the battle pass every time. I buy a fair amount of skins, he's completely free to play.
The only money I've spent in this game is for bundles that I like.
Yeah,
I don't own like Modern Warfare 2. I just play the free.
So he has Warzone downloaded.
Yeah.
Did not pay the anywhere between $50 to $100 and some for Modern Warfare 2.
Yeah.
He only plays on like free Warzone.
Yeah.
And the experience has been really good.
Oh yeah, yeah. So for me, I think the most important thing is creating a tutorial space for new players.
Okay.
Something a little more like immersive. Like again, you'll jump into DMZ and then maybe a couple minutes into play if you haven't done anything, like your handle, the AI, the game trying to direct you to actually play like HQ to actual. If you pick up mission objectives, it gives you opportunity to collect payment and everything. That's their way of like trying to do it through immersion, where they're like, hey, like there are missions available on the map, go play them. I think that a more catered experience for new players is going to be needed.
I could see a literal tutorial mission for first-time players that you can play by yourself or with two other people. And that mission is like you go on to Al Mazrah.
Right.
There's only bots.
Yeah.
And there are like 3 real teams that are just bots with 3 plates. And like they guide you to everything. And you can't exfil. You can quit, but you can't exfil until you've completed, a couple different, maybe an intel contract, demolition contract,
a supply, something to give you enough of an understanding of how to play. Yeah. And I would take it a step. I would take it a step further and say drop them into the Al Mazrah map and put other new players in the tutorial or even experience with. But PvP is not active. You can run into real players, but you can't harm each other. And that way, to let them know, hey, you're going to run into other players.
Yeah.
And they can be like, hey, welcome to Al Mazrah Boot Camp. We're going to drop you into a simulation. You're going to see other enemy operators in the field, but it's a no-kill contract.
Let's see
and then you get in there and you get to experience and you run across other players. Oh, hey, how's it going? And because then it may even be a ground to produce some more friendly interactions where it's like you can later on.
Yeah.
And give the option, you want to team up.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It could be cool to see something where they're like, hey, there are other players on the map. At first I was like, I don't know about that. But if there are other players, they kind of force a friendly situation to happen.
Yeah.
But then they have you go after a fake real team.
Where if
right?
you pick up a hunt squad on the map, it's going to be
or maybe that's even that's part of the tutorial. Yeah. Because they have recently, in this most recent season, they've been pushing player killing more, which I don't think is a bad thing. I think you do want a nice balance of players going after players while at the same time increasing friendly engagements, because that is what keeps you on your toes.
Yeah.
That's what keeps you like, what do I do? Right. And because if it's all negative, then people aren't going to want to play at all. Yeah. Or there's going to be a group of people who don't want to play at all. So I think that it is having that kind of mix would be cool. I'm with you on that. A solid tutorial that gives people an understanding of what they're doing and why they're doing it. Like, for example, maybe they bring the contraband down by 5 and they unlock 5 when they do that mission.
Yeah.
And they do it for everything, right? And they give you a good set of contraband.
Like 2 to 3.
Yeah, level 3, for a couple of different gun classes.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. Or technically you only have 1 active duty slot and they give you the other 2 when you complete the tutorial.
Yeah.
So I could see that. Because that also gives them a taste of the dopamine of unlocking things.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, I can unlock
that reward. Oh, cool. This is what I can get from playing.
Yeah.
And I think, and I do think putting in the hunt squad mission and making it an AI squad will be important, because you want their first tutorial.
You want
to
actually
because if you get a hunt squad and it's okay, here's the role player team and you're gonna have to go hunt them and they lose,
they won't come back.
Yeah, they won't come back. And that's the tutorial. You know what I mean? So I think making it a 2-tier enemy squad.
Yeah. Or even if you just have it in their code and they can't kill you.
They can damage you.
They can down you maybe.
Yeah. But then they will no longer then they'll disengage.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah. I think that's my first one. because I think the game plan is going to be, especially because I want extraction shooters to be the next big thing because they're so fun.
Yeah.
And so getting more people to want to play them and using a really good tutorial system to get people engaged and like get them hooked on the gameplay, I think will be an integral part of that.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything like, there really is nothing like an extraction shooter.
Yeah.
And that's why I think I push people to try it so much. Even if you don't think they're perfect, like I would say, especially if you like game design generally, I'm not saying you have to be like a game design major, but if you're just interested in the different design of games and mechanics, try an extraction shooter. Like if you like Metal Gear Solid 5, if you like Legend of Zelda, like Tears of the Kingdom, Breath of the Wild, if you like games where you feel like you can do anything, try this. It's more linear in the sense that you can't build stuff. There's not like survival mechanics, but no one's telling you what to do. And I think that freedom is really, really intriguing and is just different. It keeps us playing for hours. We can play the entire day away by just playing DMZ because we didn't feel like we did anything the same every single game. We could go on a complete win streak where we actually died multiple times, but it didn't matter because we got picked up or we rezzed each other or we waited. There are games that are so tense, a 6-man squad comes and hunts the 2 of us down, but he's hid in the corner somewhere, waiting for them. Waiting for them to extract, came back 30 minutes later, rezzed me, we still got out and we still technically won.
Yeah.
Because we didn't lose, we didn't give up or anything like that.
Yeah.
It's crazy how some of these game modes can go. I'm going to attempt to give what I would like to see in DMZ. There are a ton of small things I'd like to see in DMZ, but they've been doing a good job changing things over time. I'll give a good example of one, which is like keys. There are these keys that you can get on the map that you can bring to locations and unlock stuff. Usually it means they have good loot in them. Sometimes it's loot that is high value, meaning that you can use them for unlocks later or things like that. But sometimes they're like, oh, it opens this big building that has a lot of like high tier loot, like high tier, like 3-plate vests or level 5 weapons. When we say level 5, that just means 5 attachments, things like that, right? So there's a lot of really cool stuff that they have with these keys. The worst part about these keys is that if you haven't used them before, you don't know where they are or they go at all. They might say, the map is letters, numbers, so F3. Or like G7, something like that. But sometimes they only have a number, or sometimes they only have a letter, or sometimes they have nothing at all. And I don't find that helpful. You almost always have to use a third-party tool, like either YouTube or just like an interactive map. And I think just like pinging the location, like maybe you could turn it on and off or something. I think you mentioned that prior. Yeah, but just like something where you could ping the location or even around the location, because I don't know what the benefit is of us like having to figure it out. It's just more annoying, and we have a tendency to just ignore the keys. So there's some like quality of life things I think that could be cool with that. They could even do something with like you have to unlock it. They could do a mission where like you have to use like 3 like easy keys, like the U.S. Embassy or the art museum, the police station. Yeah.
And then are outlined on the map and tell you what it is.
Yeah. And then like if you do all those, all of a sudden you get like a thing that lets you easily find where these keys go or something.
You get the locksmith or something.
Yeah.
Like, hey, I'm gonna ping locations for you on the map for your keys.
Yeah, that would be fine. So there's a couple of things like that where like right now, I want the change, but there's a bigger thing that I'd like to see. And this might be, I feel like I can say this now because I don't work for Bungie. I want to see more rivals to Destiny. This is gonna sound really weird, but Destiny is good. I don't care what anybody says about it being bungo and not that good right now and whatever. Destiny is really good because it has a seamless transition from PvE and PvP and PvEVP. That doesn't mean it's always balanced and great to play, but it does have that seamless. My character is my character. My Titan is my Titan. She doesn't change depending on what she's doing. That is awesome.
Yeah.
It feels really good. The fantasy is there. Call of Duty doesn't have that at all. Call of Duty, all of its things are very separate. And the active duty slot that they recently added for DMZ only has kind of inspired me to think more about, well, what if this active duty slot was more important generally throughout the entire game? Like, what if my characters were more important than just like being a skin? Now, I know not everyone's going to agree with this, but really the only place where I feel like this would really benefit is co-op and raids. So if you've played Modern Warfare 2, Modern Warfare 2 has co-op and it has raids. From what I understand, these are not part of Warzone. They are part of Modern Warfare 2 and Warzone. So I don't believe you can play co-op.
No.
I don't think you can play raids.
I can't either. Yeah. No. I would have to own the full game.
Yeah. I don't think that that's worth it. I think that Warzone needs to incorporate co-op, and I think it needs to incorporate raids. I think that the campaign should be the campaign. I think multiplayer can stay with the campaign as well. As much as I would like for multiplayer to be over on the Warzone side, I don't think they'll ever do that. They have free weekends and things like that. I think that's fine. I think enough people. Yeah, I think enough people play both the campaign and multiplayer to warrant the price and things like that. Whatever, it's fine. But I would love to see co-op and raids being part of the Warzone fantasy overall. And I would like to see active duty move into Warzone as well. What this would do is basically say you have a Warzone character, you have Warzone active duty characters that get kitted, that change over time, that you can bring in. You're not always going to drop with nothing. You're going to drop with things sometimes you won't. If people think that's too much for Warzone, they could do something where that only counts in a certain mode or whatever. I don't actually care, to be completely honest, I don't actually care about the Battle Royale version of it. So if people feel strongly about that, that's fine. But it's the co-op thing. I played co-op, and co-op is so far away from everything else that I do that it instantly became not interesting to me. Like, I was like, oh, I love DMZ. I should play co-op. And then I jump into a co-op game, and the controls are different. It's more like the controls are way more similar to the campaign. And I'm like, well, wait, I just want to like play with my friends that I play Warzone with. So like some sort of, to be clear, it doesn't even have to be Modern Warfare 2. It could just be Warzone co-op. It could just be Warzone raids. But something to make some of this stuff mean more would be good. It's like on the precipice of being, like DMZ to me feels like it's on the precipice of being one of the best games I've ever played.
Yeah.
Like, it feels like everything is slightly important, but not right, just it's not there yet.
Yeah.
So I think there's some things that they could do. And to me, the coupling of some of this stuff would be beneficial. I'd like to just stop playing DMZ when I get frustrated and jump into co-op instead. Like do a strike from Destiny, right? Just like, dude, let's just do a strike real quick. And we do that instead.
And then maybe be able to get kitted out from there and jump back into DMZ.
Yeah. Or we've talked about this a couple times, is like there is no base. I said this earlier in the video. There is no base in DMZ. Like there's no place for you to go and like buy a 3-plate before you go into your next mission. You have to go into the DMZ and do that. Widening what DMZ is, I think, would make it its own. I don't want it to be its own standalone game. I still want it to be part of Warzone and all that experience. But I wouldn't be mad if it was its own game. But there's just more they could do there. And that's what I would like to see. It's just how much more can they grow the experience without overinflating it? The core experience is really good. It's just there are too many times where I hear people kind of go, well, like, what's the point? And sometimes it's even hard for me to answer that question. Shout out to Mexican Synth. I play with him and Phoenix the most, and Mexican Synth was like, oh, he looked up the rewards for all of the different factions. And he was like, oh, I just thought there'd be more. And I was like, yeah, I know. I was like, I didn't really care that much, but I know that a lot of people think that, especially because they get really hard. So, and then like, what's the point at the end of that, right? Now everybody can say that, what's the point? You can say that about every game. But I think for extraction shooters, seeing change over time makes you feel like you've done something. Being able to go to a base that feels fully kitted out, just feels really, really good. And so I'd like to see that. I'd like to see a larger growth of DMZ. I know this is very like, I don't really know a great way of saying that. I can break it down by a bunch of different things, but that's generally like what I would like to see is a bigger and make DMZ more important, basically. I don't know if I vocalized that well, but if you play DMZ, I think you'll know what I mean with some of the stuff that I said. But do you have any other things that you'd like to see?
And this kind of leans on some of the stuff you were saying, so I feel like that was really good. One, and this may be because I'm a DMZ player, I understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
So then it allows me to kind of, there's two, and the way I'll do it is from pulling from two different games, and we've had this conversation before. There are two games that I feel like the aspects of those games pulled into DMZ will make it absolutely perfect.
I know exactly what you're gonna say.
Metal Gear. Yes. The base building aspect.
Metal Gear 5.
Yeah. Metal Gear 5, the base building aspect. Having a separate location that you go to whether you win or lose. Having a physical representation of the factions. Vendors that even if the cost is high, where you can go in and pre-kit, and even if there's a restriction, like, okay, like, or if it's progression locked with levels or in the factions where you can go and pre-kit to an extent, whether it's just like, okay, you're not going to be able to get more than the 2-plate, but maybe you can get some of the specialized 2-plates, we'll get you some weapons, you can get some attachments, but they're like having a space outside of the normal DMZ to be able to go to, get some equipment, interact with the players in your team. And again, there is a clan system. There is a channel system. Yeah. Maybe a hub space where like you can all get together and then preset your squads there and leave directly for the DMZ from there would be really cool. The other thing is seeing more aspects of MAG. I think at one point you said, I would like to see a little more RPG elements introduced into DMZ.
Yeah.
Having like MAG had a crazy skill tree. And that may be a little bit too much.
I don't remember that.
Oh yeah, like you could go in there and go in and like knifing, like a melee range, stuff like that. That may be a little too intense. Oh yeah, they were like MAG had some RPG elements that I was not expecting. Anything, I think there were even some stuff to like reduce like scope wobble and stuff like that.
Oh yeah, I haven't remember that stuff.
But yeah, like seeing more like. Whether it's like, okay, if you spec into and maybe like a class system a little more similar to like Battlefield, where it's like, okay, like one of the things we talked about recently is like particular weapons, the ammo economy is not great.
Yeah.
Having a skill tree or some like attachment or something where you're like, hey, like I'm going to be carrying more ammunition. And yeah, to an extent they have it in the game. There's an ammo box and an armor box.
Yeah.
That are one-time use. Like, I think...
Making those more efficient, though.
Yeah.
Like, you don't necessarily have to change the game entirely, but having, like, a vendor or a person that you go to, and, like, they're the ones that unlock the medic vest. Yeah. Like, they're the ones that are like, hey, when you get a revive pistol, you can use it this way, or it's more efficient, or it goes faster, or your revives are faster, or you can carry more plates. They're cheaper. That's one of the things that you can do. All of those things being on a track. Yeah. It's not making you a healer in the game, but it's allowing you to kind of choose that path if you want to.
Yeah.
I could see that.
I think bringing a little more of that stuff in will make for a more dynamic experience. I think just those two things alone, and then I love the crossovers.
Oh, yeah.
Seeing more of that. And I know that's money spent, but, it's like, hey, like, seeing, like, I don't know, like, Big Boss jumps into the map, or, like...
We talk about this all the time. we would love to see the number... I actually tweeted this. I'm going to throw this out there. I tweeted this. I was like, we need to get a Metal Gear Solid 5 DMZ crossover, or Warzone crossover. The boys is fun. I mean, the boys, I know some people hate the bot powers. In DMZ, the bot powers are awesome. Yeah. So, like, I can't speak for Warzone. I can imagine it being really annoying. You're, like, fighting someone, and then someone just, like, warps in the sky and just kills you. Like, I get that. But in DMZ, you get the laser eyes, and you just blow up the boss plane. There's bosses in DMZ. you can just blow up one of the bosses, probably all the bosses, like just going up in the air and just lasering them. Like if you find laser eyes, you should immediately just be like, let's go kill boss.
Yeah.
Like that actually
feels case contract immediately.
It feels really good. So like we would love to see more of those crossovers. And we always talk about Metal Gear Solid 5 being one of those crossovers.
Because it fits so well.
It fits amazingly. Like big map. You know, in Metal Gear Solid 5, you're in Afghanistan. And so like you have this like, you know, very similar looking map. And like the size of it and the scope of you like getting in your vehicle or driving around, it feels very similar. Yeah. And so, you know, getting those skins in would be amazing from like all the different Metal Gears would be really cool. Like boss, big boss, you know, like any of that stuff. Oh God. Yeah. And you could do Raiden. You could totally do Raiden. And you could even put Raiden's sword in.
Yeah, because there's a melee.
Yeah. So like there's a lot of things they could do. Also, maybe it's because I play gacha games. The skin economy really isn't that bad. Like, hear me out on this one. Like, $20 for a skin that gives you a skin, 2 weapons, a bunch of random stuff that I don't care about.
Sometimes an additional operator slot.
Yeah, and then sometimes, well, we'll talk about that in a minute. Actually, that'll be the last thing we talk about.
Yeah.
You know, like, there's some really cool things there. Like, I think the skin economy really isn't that bad because when I think about gacha games, I'm having to pay for, like, real content. And like I hate that. Like if he all of a sudden had to pay to go to like what's the island called? Ashika Island. Like that would just suck. Like I'd be oh well, that's annoying. Yeah. You know, like
just playing on Massdrop, so we're bored.
Yeah. It's like they believe in their game enough that he'll keep playing, and thus he'll keep paying for things that he just likes. Like I love this game, so I'm gonna buy this skin because it looks cool. Like it's self-expression that we're paying for. We're not paying for content, which is okay to do, but I don't think I think splitting the player base is a bad idea. There's more value in not having him pay for it. So the skins I actually think are pretty well priced.
And they're actually valued compared to gambling for it.
Yeah, and there's that's the biggest thing. There's no gambling in it where I'm like, oh, am I got a loot box? It's like, nope, you know exactly what you're playing for, you know exactly what you're paying for. And so those types of crossovers I wouldn't mind either. Like if they changed all of a sudden they were like, Sahelanthropus is on the map. Or like, you know, all of a sudden they're like, there's a Metal Gear like on the map and you have to literally go find, or like geckos are randomly on the map and you can like ride geckos.
Right.
That would be insane.
Yeah.
Like that'd be some really cool stuff. But then you have to pay for the character skins. I'm totally worth it. Totally worth it. I love that. I think all those ideas are good. There's one last thing I want to talk about, and that is the downfall of DMZ. DMZ can fail, and we've seen it time and time again with these other extraction shooters. And I think the easiest way for this game to fail, and I mean actually fail too, there's times where gamers don't like things that people do, but it doesn't matter because enough people will pay into it or not enough people care about the ramifications of it. So DMZ just started doing pay for power. So there's pay to win. Pay to win is like, oh, my character's stronger than yours. Yeah, for example, to win no matter what. Yeah, pay to win would be you can buy a 4-plate. There's no such thing as a 4-plate, but you're just like, oh, I'm stronger than you because I bought a 4-plate, and you can't do that otherwise. Or like faster running in the game, or like a faster TTK in the game would be like literally just pay to win, right? Like I'm just better than you. Like if there are 2 Daves. Phoenix, if there's 2 Phoenixes and they all have the same stuff, but one paid for better stuff, like literal better stuff, that means that's pay to win in my book.
Yeah.
Pay for power or paying for convenience starts to get into a weird shady area. So right now, DMZ has skins that you can buy that every time you use that skin for an active duty slot, you get something. For example, a 2-plate. Every time you spawn, you get a 1-plate. But with these characters, you get a 2-plate. Some of those characters spawn with a UAV.
Which can be incredibly damaging depending on where you're playing. Some of them spawn with a self-revive.
Yeah. Some of them spawn with, which self-revives completely cancel out snipers in a lot of scenarios.
Yeah.
So like there's a lot of scenarios where it's just completely unfair to start with one. Yeah. And then some of them are a little bit more like convenience-oriented, like faster cooldowns on weapons.
Yeah.
When you lose a custom kitted weapon, it's in your insured slot, meaning that over time it will come back. Some of those weapons take 2-3 hours.
Yeah, I think it's a base either an hour and a half. Yeah, it's an hour and a half where you will have to wait before you can get your custom weapon back.
Some of those weapons that you can buy are 15 minutes.
I think all of it. I think all of the weapons that have the DMZ perk.
Yeah,
it's a base 15-minute cooldown. Which, mind you, most of the games you go in and play are going to take you a minimum of 15 minutes.
And the only way it's not going to be 15 minutes
is if you decide to leave early.
Yeah, if you die or something.
Yeah.
Otherwise, they're normally 30 minutes.
Yeah. Like,
you die.
Yeah. You jump in there, and, like, if you lose your insured slot, you grab, like, a contraband weapon.
Yeah.
And then by the time you're done that game, you get your weapon. Whereas, like, and this is kind of where it's, like, the pay for convenience. Otherwise, you either have to wait that full hour and a half, or particular things you do in DMZ can reduce the amount of time before you get.
Which they would completely remove that.
Yeah.
So let me be clear about this. If me and Phoenix go into the DMZ and we lose, we die, and we had our insured weapons. Let's say Phoenix just happens to have a DMZ paid weapon, right? That means in 15 minutes he'll get it back. For me, I'm now thinking about going back into the DMZ and reducing my time. The way to reduce your time is to go to dead drops, which are trash cans, white dumpsters that you can put things in, and it will reduce your time by a lot.
Based on the value of what you're putting in.
Yeah. You still have to think of that.
And also weapons you put in there, don't they go to your contraband? Or at least at one point they did.
I'm not sure.
Yeah.
He doesn't have to do that at all because it'll take him 15 minutes. So an entire part of the game is just gone for him. There's no reason for him ever to think about that. That kind of stuff is to me, we're starting to get to a point where the integrity of the game is really shaken up. Integrity, I mean, is like, okay, if I jump into a game with nothing and I get killed by another player who has a certain skin, and I know that skin comes with a free 2-plate, I then look at that player and go, well, you paid for that. Meaning the integrity is gone.
It's like, of course you're going to win because you paid to be kitted a little better than
I. Now, if I get killed by a player that has a 3-plate, my initial reaction is that player earned that 3-plate. I don't think that player got that 3-plate for free, right, or paid for it. So I'm concerned because that, to me, can be the downfall, is that they increase the amount of that, or they don't change it where right now I'm okay with some of these things being in the game. But what I'd like to see is that some of that stuff is earnable, because again, an entire part. Some of the things about this is like you're removing major parts of the game. If you always start with a self-revive, you never have to think about finding a self-revive. Meaning the self-revive is now completely irrelevant to you within the entirety of the game, and a self-revive is really expensive.
Yeah.
So like,
you buy them at the shop at the vendor.
Yeah.
It's what, like 20?
I don't know, but it's on the expensive part of the
yeah. I think it's like 20-25 grand, which
and it's even worse for UAV.
Yeah.
Like a UAV, it's a little kill streak. Yeah. So like that kind of stuff is like, it's very concerning where they're like jump the line and removing the need to think about particular things in the game. So I don't really like that, and I think that could be the fall of like this extraction game mode, or it could be the boost to another extraction game mode. So this is my shameless shilling for Marathon. And I don't work for Bungie anymore, but I'm really excited for Marathon and for any other extraction shooter that comes out. But really, I'm excited for Marathon, and I'm excited for other shooters that are taking a look at what DMZ is doing. Because I do truly believe that DMZ is the best, by a landslide, the best, and one of the only alive extraction shooters at this point. And I really enjoy it. And there are a lot of people who enjoy it. And there are a lot of different types of extraction shooters coming out. Another good one, another one that will come out is Heartland. Why can't I think of it? The Division. The Division Heartland. That's an extraction shooter based on The Division. A lot of people like The Division. It's not as popular as like Destiny is, but it's not a new IP like Marathon. Marathon's not a new IP, but for a lot of people it is. So The Division Heartland could be really good. And I hope that they're paying attention to what DMZ is doing, because it's going to be a literal extraction shooter, period. That's it. It doesn't have all this other stuff in it. So they probably will have a hub. They probably will have all this like stuff that makes you feel like everything you're doing is worth it. Yeah. But there's more. There's more extraction shooters that are coming out. And so there's another one that just recently converted to one. Arc Raiders. There's a shooter called Arc Raiders that was announced and has been talked about. We've seen gameplay for, and they just recently announced that they're now an extraction shooter. So I just hope they're looking and watching and seeing some of these things, and kind of figuring out the next moves, because I would like to see some really good extraction shooter competition. Yeah. So even if DMZ goes by the wayside, we have a lot of things that are coming up. I don't think DMZ is going to go by the wayside. It's Call of Duty. Yeah. Like, though, I just hope that the designers there are thinking enough about making DMZ fair. I don't care if they increase the price of all paid content in the game, as long as it's not pay to win. And I really don't like the pay for power, but that's not going away. There's no way they're taking that back, because people are buying it. So it's not going to go away. I just don't want it to get any worse, and I'd love to see it be earnable.
Yeah, because I think by making it earnable, you're not balancing it, but you're adding a little bit more.
Well, I do think you're balancing it, especially if it's something you can unlock. Like, you can unlock always starting with a 2-plate.
Oh, but I'm saying it's not going to remove the fact that you, as a not paid player, will have to earn it compared to a person.
Oh yeah, I think that's okay. I'm okay with that. That's a similar thing to paying for convenience. I think is okay. I think it just depends on like what the scenario is. Mm-hmm. The reason I don't like it for gun cooldown is because it's a huge gun cooldown
of the game,
and it removes the dead drop.
Yeah,
which is already annoying. To find the dead drops is,
and especially they change every season.
Yeah, so they don't show up on the map. You have to go find them. It's like this whole thing that, like, you know, if you just have a cooldown, you're like, oh, don't care about that. So anyway, I know we just ended on like it's annoying, whatever. The game's great. What do you think we're going to do right after this? We're going to go play some DMZ. It's a great game. I do really recommend it. If you are looking for people to play, feel free to join the Discord down below. And we have a Call of Duty section where you just, hey, looking for somebody to play DMZ with. I play it all the time. Phoenix plays it all the time. Mexican Synth plays it quite a bit. And then Darth plays Call of Duty a fair amount. I don't think Gil really plays it all anymore, but sometimes he'll just play with us. But yeah, so there are people that play, and we're always looking for other people to play. So feel free to hit us up. But other than that, let me know what you think about extraction shooters, DMZ, Marathon, anything like that. The more extraction shooters that come out, the more I will likely stream them. I have yet to stream DMZ because it's on my PlayStation 5 and I like streaming on my PC. It doesn't mean that I won't, though. So keep your eyes open. Follow me on twitch.tv/ChaingearGaming. Other than that, see you guys online. And of course, I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.